Voters from both sides of the aisle head to the polls today in Nevada's presidential primary. President Biden is on the ballot and Donald Trump is not. We're going to explain. This is an early test, though, of immigration as an issue in November when Nevada will be up for grabs. Ed O'Keefe spoke with undecided voters there, and he's joining us now from Las Vegas. Ed, good morning. We know undecided voters more and more recently are the ones that eventually determine the outcome of most elections.
That's right, Anne-Marie. Good morning from Las Vegas. You know, President Biden beat former President Donald Trump here in 2020 by about 3 percentage points. And both guys understand if you want to hit the jackpot, Nevada, you've got to win over the state's fastest growing part of the population, Latino voters.
As President Biden and former President Donald Trump try their luck in Nevada, a top concern here for voters, what to do about immigration.
Paperwork process took you how long?
To become a citizen, 6 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a long time.
Yeah.
Restaurant owner Idania Archuleta came to the U.S. as a child and became a citizen just last year.
What would you do to fix this, to make it easier or smoother for somebody who wants to become a legal citizen?
There has to be some kind of amnesty for people that have been here, a certain amount of years.
Stevie Castrejon's parents came to the U.S. in the 70s.
Right, they crossed illegally, so it's like, I understand that, but now we're at a point, it's like, well, what's the line, right? How many people can we allow into the country? When are we going to protect our own citizens?
The cost of things is also a big concern. Maggie Arias Petrel says it's making life harder for her 2 adult children.
They cannot afford a home. It just breaks my heart as a mom. You know, I see that it's not happening, and they're not living their American dream yet.
We're feeling this, the inflation, we're feeling the cost of living going up. It's been really hard.
President Biden continues pushing for the blue-collar vote, stumping in Nevada Monday with hospitality workers. And former President Donald Trump's coming back later this week. But when it comes to the likely Biden-Trump rematch, these voters aren't totally sold on Biden.
A lot of things that I don't think he was able to deliver.
While still not willing to bet on the former president.
He needs to understand that he lives in a country that was created by immigrants.
So this would be your first election.
It would. I was excited. When I became a citizen, I was like, yes, let's do it, And now it's like, what do I do?
So, tonight, President Biden's expected to easily win the Democratic primary here in Nevada. It gets a little trickier, however, on the Republican side. So, basically, state law requires primaries be held in competitive elections. But a state judge ruled a few years ago that the parties can determine how they want to pick their presidential candidate. So Republicans are abiding by state law and holding a primary, and Nikki Haley's the only candidate on the ballot, and it's not going to count. Instead, the caucus that they're holding on Thursday that features the former president, Donald Trump, will count. He's expected to easily win that and earn the state's 26 delegates. Let's just say, Anne-Marie, this state party is controlled by Trump loyalists who saw an opportunity to ensure him a big victory. You might say they moved the goalposts since this is Super Bowl week in Las Vegas.
Oh, I love it.
We can use those kinds of terms.
Yes.
But Haley will be here. Well, she won't be here, but she'll be on the ballot tonight.
I like the mixing of metaphors. We started with sort of a gambling reference, and now we're going to a Super Bowl reference. But that explains why some people might be wondering why Nikki Haley is focusing on South Carolina, not so much on Nevada. That's the reason why. But let's talk about President Biden. He was in Las Vegas. He's on the way back to probably already back in Washington. But when he was there, he met with the culinary union workers in Las Vegas. They were on the verge of striking. They reached a tentative, the hospitality workers, they reached a tentative deal with several hotels and called off their walkout. This is a really important group for President Biden.
Yeah, just like organized labor is a big deal in places like Michigan. Out here, the culinary workers have an incredible mobilizing power that Democrats rely on in order to win close statewide elections. So, yes, he met with them yesterday. There were a handful of hotels among the dozens here on the Strip that were holding out for contract talks. They've essentially sorted that out. The union was threatening to strike here at the start of Super Bowl week. It appears they've warded that off. But if the president's going to succeed in Nevada in November, he's got to make sure as many of those union workers are with him, just as he's got to worry that they're with him in Michigan or Pennsylvania or other parts of the country.
So let's talk about President Biden and this campaign, because we've really kind of watched it evolve over the past few months, and then we had kind of like a formal kickoff where they really sort of focused on abortion rights. But President Biden's language has gotten much sharper when he talks about Trump. I want to play some of his recent comments.
Imagine the nightmare if Donald Trump's reelected. No. By the way, this is the guy who, when he was in France, and they asked him to go to an American cemetery in France in World War II where Americans were buried. You know what he said? He said those folks buried in that cemetery were suckers and losers.
All right, so we know the kind of language that former President Trump uses, and that really works with his base. He's kind of a name caller and that kind of thing. So this is sort of Biden's version of that. He's not name calling. But I'm curious about whether this works with Democrats or works with independents. Do they like a sharper, more critical Biden?
It works with Democrats, and right now he's got to worry about motivating Democrats first because of these primaries that are being held across the country that he's obviously competing in, even if he doesn't have terribly serious competition. So yes, what he's now saying in public is a version of what he's been saying either behind closed doors at big dollar fundraisers or even more explicitly to his own staff. And so there's a desire among rank and file Democrats to hear a little bit more of that, to demonstrate that he's got the fight in him, that he's as perhaps upset as many voters are about the former president being in this race and concerned about it. So they figure, look, you've got to go out there and be a little more explicit about this, get your party motivated, and yeah, eventually convince those independent voters who may not like the former president as well, remind them this is what could happen if he wins again.
Really interesting. Ed, I can't think of a gambling line or anything, so I'll just say thank you and good luck. I don't know.